Hey, you, this is where your ad could be. 15-second spot that just talks about what your thing is real quick, and then a link to it. Go check it out. I love it. It's great. It's fantastic. Have some fun. Click the thing and enjoy. Offer code? I don't know. Whatever. Hit me up. Hey everybody, Cito here, aka Mr. Christian Rivera. Welcome to DOPEamine, the show that is not sure that Ryan Reynolds is actually a real person anymore. Today on the show, I wanted to talk about negative feedback and trolls. You know, the internet kind. Not the Anna Kendrick kind, but the ones that give you a hard time because of their own insecurities. And at its core, that's what I want to talk about, is the insecurities that come with someone projecting their trolliness onto your negativity, but there is usually a nugget of truth in there that you can kind of take as some feedback. And, well, I want to take a little time to break that down and talk a little bit about that. I feel like my radio voice is getting better. Like I'm a little bit more like, yeah, let's talk about the thing. I don't know. Trying to loosen up and have a little more fun. But yeah, let's talk about negative feedback and trolls. Hit the thing, the button, the game show music, the joy, the fun. Let's do it.
Drums, please.
Why north, west, south, west, south side, right, why, yeah, now here it is.
So hi everyone, welcome to the show. I hope you're doing well. I'm recording this on Friday, July 15th. I'm not sure when this is going up, and I'm not sure why it was relevant to tell you the date. But, I don't know. I'm just trying to play more and have fun. I think I started to get a little bit too rigid with a lot of the things I was doing. I was doing a lot of Facebook Lives. I was doing too many deliberate things, you know, standing at my desk, and everything was so technical and tightly wound. And I don't know, I'm just kind of loosening things up. Like all of these episodes this week so far have been recorded on my phone, and I'm just literally like sitting on the couch and having a good time. The audio quality's fine, so if it's a problem, let me know, and we'll absolutely work on making that better. But, you know, it's just another way that I'm trying to show that you don't necessarily have to have the most fancy equipment to just to do a show. You just have to, like, have something to talk about and feel comfortable talking about it. But today on the show, I wanted to talk about trolls and negative feedback, particularly because there was someone on. Okay. So before I go into that stuff, many of us have been dealing with more negative responses to people, especially as you start to grow with anything that you're doing. If you're doing a podcast, you're doing a YouTube channel, you're doing a Facebook group or a Facebook Live or a show of any kind, anywhere where people can publicly leave feedback, you're going to likely come across people who say that they don't like what you're doing. And, you know, that's part of the tricky reality of throwing yourself out there, is that you become vulnerable to people who are willing to say something shitty. And the trick is learning the difference between someone giving honest, helpful feedback and somebody just trying to be difficult, or someone who has not been nurtured correctly in their life and don't necessarily know how to give constructive feedback. So it really kind of falls into, there's kind of three different kinds of people to consider in this scenario. One who is blatantly trying to be hurtful. These are the people who are just like, this is stupid, I don't like you, fuck your stuff, like, stop it, you should never do this ever again. And someone who's just someone who is blatantly attempting to be hurtful. They're trying to take down your brand, they're trying to tarnish your name and make you look bad. And that obviously is about their insecurities. It's about how they feel about themselves, and they are projecting that onto you. Now, it can be a little bit tricky, because if you do say something that is like hurtful or harmful, it's going to trigger something in someone. But I'm speaking on the assumption that you're not a bad person putting out bad content. You know what I mean? So if you're a good person putting out good content, which is, I understand there's a lot of room for nuance there, but really, don't be stupid. You know what I'm talking about. So the idea here is that if you're someone who is trying to earnestly put out something that's good, and someone comes to you and says like, why would anyone watch this garbage? Blah, 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 blah. Those are the comments that you have my and anyone else's permission to just delete. Just get rid of them. Nobody needs that garbage in their life. Like, it is not helpful. It does not give you any feedback. It does not allow you to grow in any kind of way. It is just someone trying to put a torch to your house for no reason other than to smell the burning wood. And it doesn't serve you in any way. So there's no reason for you to keep it around as a means for someone to fuel the fire. I find that deleting comments like that and making sure that that's not acceptable in your community lets people know, not only does it like let people know that there are not trolls in your community, especially if you're allowing constructive comments to stay, that the only comments that are allowed are the constructive ones. So if you're deleting the blatantly hurtful ones, then you're letting people know within the comments that it is not socially acceptable to allow these types of comments. If you do not delete them, and people see 3 or 4 or 5, the people who are more likely to leave those kinds of comments feel safer to do so. And removing those comments is absolutely imperative to making sure that you're fostering a safe space within this thing that you're trying to promote and build, whether that's the podcast or a YouTube channel or whatever the case may be. So that involves, consistent community management. And I know it's hard as you become a bigger name, but as you become a bigger name, you can afford to pay someone to do that. So it's pretty imperative, and it should not be the responsibility of the platform to do it. It is you're putting out the content. It is your community. These are people that are supposed to be your fans. And if there are people that are coming in here, it's like if you were at a concert and if you were the band performing and you see someone in the crowd that is like punching someone. You see like a group of people that are starting to just punch people. And I don't mean like in a mosh pit kind of way, but I mean like someone who is like cheering and enjoying the show, and someone comes up and just clocks them, and you're the performer and you see that. You're not going to ignore it and just say, oh, that's the responsibility of the venue to fix that. You're going to say, yo, stop everything. Get these people out of here. They are enjoying my fans' enjoyment of the show. They need to leave. And it is the same exact thing in the comments section of your podcast, in your reviews, in your groups, in your YouTube channels. You need to get rid of the toxic people in your life. And this goes beyond just creating content, but you need to get rid of those toxic people so that you can leave room for the more helpful people. Because again, it is not about just getting rid of people who are trying to give you feedback. These are the people that are blatantly being hurtful and hateful. That is the first group of people that you need to look for and to just immediately get rid of. And sometimes that can be tough to assess because someone may not necessarily use harsh language or do the equivalent of a punch. It may be more of a verbal push. And that's when maybe you should consult a friend or someone like that. But don't ignore it. Figure out what action to take on it and see if it's, think about if it's helpful to you first, and then think about if it's helpful for your fans to read this kind of comment. Because sometimes getting constructive feedback, which goes into the second group of people who have had an issue with something, or, maybe there was a technical issue, or there was like something with the way that you speak, or you're rambling, or something that is, that is about trying to help you improve the quality of the show, those are things that you can likely consider keeping. And those are things that if you can cultivate an appropriate response to it, people can see that you're responding to those comments, and they'll be more likely to be able to leave constructive feedback. So if someone feels like they were listening to a show and they didn't like the quality of the audio or something like that, they can leave a comment and they can know that you're listening to them. And they'll be more likely to stick around because they're aware that you're listening to them. A lot of the time, someone who leaves feedback and they don't feel like they've been listened to will not come back and listen to your show, because they'll lose any kind of connection to what it is that you're putting out there. So cultivating the appropriate comments and responding to them, and essentially managing the community and being a PR person, is going to allow you to welcome more people in your life that are going to help you grow the show. Because I think they like some aspect of what's going on, which is part of that middle section. They kind of like what's going on, because typically people who are in the first section are people who don't like anything. The people who are more just the straightforward trolls, they don't like it. They don't like what you put out there. They have no reason to continue watching. So they, in turn, have no reason to comment. But the second tier, they're like, I kind of like what's going on. I just don't really know what to say about it. Like, I can identify that there are some issues here, and I want to help you improve so that I can enjoy the show more. And those are the types of comments you can keep around, because then you can respond to it and you can just say, I really appreciate the feedback. Thank you for liking the show. I'm going to fix this thing. I'll definitely take note of this, or it's being fixed. Sorry that this is not a thing, or I don't know, some response that lets them know that they've been heard, that their feedback has been accepted. You don't necessarily have to follow that feedback, but just the acknowledgement is appropriate for continuing to build a relationship with their community so that people feel comfortable leaving those types of comments. Again, the difference between like that first group where it was just straight up trolls, like you don't want to leave those comments around because it'll invite more people to leave those kinds of comments. But if you've got constructive comments, you want to keep those around and respond to those to encourage people who kind of like the show but want to see something that will make it better. You want to encourage that, because then you can kind of keep them around by responding to it and not just discouraging them and having them think that this thing will never improve. So that is one of the key elements of allowing these constructive comments to stick around, is to, keep fans and nurture these new fans. And then, obviously you're going to have more of the third tier of people who are more of a straightforward, they're straightforward fans. They like what you've got going on. They're going to leave positive feedback, and they're going to likely, not tell you if something's wrong. And that's okay too, keep those around. Those are helpful to kind of keep you going. But understand that if you're putting on a show, those positive comments are not necessarily going to be the fuel for you, or they should not be the fuel for you. You should, be doing something because it feels natural to you, or it's something that you really want to do, or you love to do, or, it serves a greater purpose. But if you're leaning on getting positive, negative, or constructive comments, then you're going to have a lot of difficulty navigating people's feedback. So it's almost, you have to take a bit of a stoic approach to some of basically comments that you get on the internet. Because as you get bigger, the volume of those kinds of comments are going to increase. And if you learn how to psychologically approach those comments, they're not going to affect you as much. So I had a comment recently on YouTube where somebody kind of missed the point that this was a podcast recording, and they left a comment saying like, I'm sure you have something important to say, but you kind of just ramble on and on and on. And, my first thought was like, yeah, it's a podcast. You're supposed to kind of ramble. So I don't know. I didn't see it as constructive because they were not giving me any kind of helpful feedback. They were just making a negative comment about the approach, what the show is. And that is one of those scenarios where it's like, if you don't like it, then don't watch it or don't listen to it. That's fine. There's going to be other people that like the show. But if you feel like, in that scenario, if it was the difference between that being more of a trolling comment versus a constructive comment is, they could have said something like, I like what you're trying to say. I feel like it's maybe a little bit all over the place. Maybe more of a structure would kind of help with me understanding it a little bit better. But this was really hard to follow. And I think if you kind of organized it a little bit better, it could be better for people. Instead of just saying, you ramble, and I couldn't understand anything. And I'm not going to watch this anymore. Like, if you have to say I'm unsubscribing or I'm unwatching or I'm done, like, that's not helpful because then I can't win you back. You just go, just leave. It's fine. You don't have to recommend the show to anyone. You don't have to tell anyone that you thought it was bad. You just move on with your life. And, it doesn't affect me. I read it and I just kind of laughed a little bit. Because that's just my style. And there was nothing constructive in there. I could understand if they had an issue with like, maybe me saying too many ums and ahs, or there was not enough of a focus or something like that. But again, it just didn't feel constructive, so I didn't want to keep it within my community, and I moved on. So I deleted it, and it's gone. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this concept of trolling and negative feedback and how to handle it and how to think about it. For me, it seems pretty obvious, but I've got pretty thick skin. I'm definitely not going to fall into any kind of insensitivity when it comes to strangers. Like, people come and go in our lives, and it's not that big of a deal. And I'm happy to continue helping the people that have been getting positive things out of this show. And I'm always open to constructive feedback and criticism, to help me make this show better. So let me know what you think about that. I'm trying to promote the DOPEamine group. So if you go to DOPEamine.group, it is a community of people, mostly creative people, who are having us. It's a safe space for people to be able to, you can go live in the group and talk about your difficulties, share your story, or you can ask questions. It is not a space where there are professionals. So it is just people talking about topics and sharing the day-to-day reality of these things, and creating just a safe space. There's no bullying allowed, no belittling of any kind, and no agendas to like sell things or sell coaching or any of that stuff. It's just people being people, and having somewhere to put their anguish if they're dealing with something difficult. So beyond that, we still have the podcast course that is up, cnotes.thinkific.com. You can check that out. It's everything from conception to execution when it comes to building a podcast. And, it goes beyond just wanting to create a podcast because you think it's fun, but it's actually an investment in your personal development as a speaker, as someone who can think of things to say, and, sharing your expertise in your field of study. So that's where that is. cnote.thinkific.com. And, more fun things coming down the pipe. I'm also thinking about starting a Patreon page. So if you guys have ideas for that, let me know. But that is everything. I hope you guys have a good day. Take care of yourselves and each other. And I'll catch you on the next one. Later. Hey, you beautiful human. Thanks for listening to DOPEamine. I really appreciate it. If you thought this was a dope show, then you should wait until next week. But also, while you wait, you should go to iTunes and Stitcher and leave a positive review. Positive reviews help me to fill up my dopamine tank. Otherwise, you can send your friends to dopamine.life to listen to the show, or hi, my name is Christian.com to get the latest updates. I'll catch you later. Yeah, so this is where the other ad would be. You get the idea? You get one before the show? You get one after the show? I mean, it's the first time I'm doing this, so you'll get some cheap rates. DOPEaminepodcast@gmail.com, or send me a voice message. Let's chat. It'll be great.